Hello and welcome to the Necromundown. I'm Joshua.
I'm Mitchell.
And we've got breaking news from the Necromundown front. For the first time in a long time, Necromunda is getting a rules update.
Yeah. Well, okay. A long time comparatively, but like...
For GW.
Oh, yeah.
It's a real long time.
Because Ash Waste added a bunch of stuff, but like this is updating stuff. Like rules are changing.
Right. So one of the things Ash Wastes added was a new rulebook. Mm-hmm. In fact, it was the only way to get all the new rules.
Still is.
As we discussed in our How to Actually Get Started in Necromunda video. It's over there somewhere. It's very difficult to actually buy a core rulebook in Necromunda and just get started.
Yeah.
Well, they're fixing that with a brand new Necromunda core rulebook.
Yep.
It's got all of the house people in it. It's got literally everything, so they say.
Yeah. All the major rules you need to play the game.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk about today what we know from the article and what we can guess is coming based on what we know about Necromunda.
Mm-hmm.
So what we know. A, new core rulebook.
Yes.
It's thick.
Yeah, it is 3 C's on that one.
Yeah, super, super thick. Oops. And there's been some minor changes in addition to all the consolidation.
Right.
They do call out that Necromunda has a lot of rules in a lot of different places. It's not like it's our fault or anything. And that it needs consolidating.
Sorry, guys.
They're consolidating it. And while they're doing so, they're actually, I'm just going to say, they're making the kind of changes that normally GW makes when additions change.
Yeah, that was my thought. Because some people were speculating that like the change to Ash Waste was an addition change, but this is way more like that.
Right. And that makes me think, in a positive light, that this means Necromunda is not getting a new edition anytime soon.
Fair.
And I mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Necromunda needs a new edition.
We don't need the year 3 rule.
Right. We don't need a 3-year rule. We don't need a 5-year rule.
No.
Necromunda's fine for what it is, which is a lumbering behemoth of silliness.
Yeah.
But that's why we love it.
Yeah. And this is the perfect way to update it.
And now we don't know if these are all of the rules changes.
Right.
And I'm guessing not, because they say it's just our top 7 rules changes from the book we wrote.
Best innovations from the book that we wrote.
I'd make a rude gesture, but I'm not going to. Yeah, there we go. Pat yourself on the back. Love myself, I love me so. Took myself to the picture show. So, number 1, the one they call it the biggest, and this is also one of the biggest.
Yeah.
The black market and the trading post are now the same thing.
Which is good. In my opinion.
Yes.
I think it's a good thing. Because there was, when you really think about it, there was really not a distinction except that there was nothing illegal in the trading post.
Right.
Because there was rare stuff in the black market, but not illegal things in the trading post.
But it didn't matter if they were illegal unless you were playing Law and Order.
Right.
So let's read between the line on this one.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things about the black market is that there was a lot of stuff in there that was based on rules or interactions that had since been excised from the game. The big one being ammunition. Mm-hmm. They pulled all of the ammo from
basically
the trading post.
Very, very few ammo left.
Because there used to be tons. There used to be gunk rounds and explosive fragmentation rounds. All of these things. Those all went away.
Yep.
But they remained in the black market post.
Because they hadn't updated the black market like they did the trading post.
10-to-1 odds, this is also a black market cleanup.
Yep, and I'm okay with this.
Yeah, there was some silly stuff in the black market that if it goes away, I'll be sad to lose.
Sure.
I hope my beloved autocannons don't go anywhere, or I've got some more converting to do.
Or poor Sean's
mole launcher.
Mole launchers.
Hey, the mole launchers are still in Leagues of Votann.
That's true.
So hopefully that means they aren't going anywhere.
Yep.
Earn XP for inflicting a serious injury.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very funny because we talked about the advancement in a previous episode.
More cards. Bam.
And when we talked about that, we talked about a rule that we were going to institute that we hadn't tried yet. We had since tried that and liked it, which is essentially this rule.
Yep.
Now, for us, it was only for, I believe, Juves and Prospects, right?
Yeah, it was Juves, Prospects, and then Crew.
We instituted a rule that if Juves, Prospects, or Crew seriously injured somebody, they still get an XP point. Now it's just everyone gets an XP point for inflicting a serious injury.
Which is, again, I think great. And I like that to a certain extent they're paying attention to the community and what people want and like the house rules that people are doing and go, you know what, that's a good idea.
Each serious injury roll counts as a flesh wound. So speaking along changes for that, it used to be that if you got a serious injury, nothing else happened. You'd lie on the ground bleeding out, and then either someone would come and step on your head to make sure you're dead, or you would roll the flesh wound in the recovery phase, and you would get back up with a flesh wound. Now, every roll, whether it's in recovery at the end of a turn or after an especially painful shot to the face, also now causes a flesh wound. And those flesh wounds mount up fast.
So the thing before was if I had, you know, an auto cannon and I was rolling 4 injury dice, if they were all flesh wounds, then you take 4 flesh wounds and die. If they were all seriously injuries, you would become seriously injured and nothing else happened.
Yeah, and you'd probably get up and take 1 flesh wound.
Yeah. So this makes flesh wounds more lethal.
Yes.
Because of it.
Or serious injury, more easy.
Serious injury, sorry, not flesh wounds.
Now, it does say every roll, whether it's in recovery at the end of a turn, also now causes a flesh wound. Does that mean if you're seriously injured and you roll seriously injured, are you going to take a flesh wound?
That's what it sounds like. You take a flesh wound and don't recover.
Because that's brutal.
Yeah, that's
especially
nasty.
Because I think the dice goes 2 flesh wound, 3 seriously injured, 1 death, or is it the other way?
I think it's definitely 1 death, and I think it's 3 flesh wound, 2 seriously injured. Yeah.
Okay. So the chances are that you'll get up, but there's also a 2 in 6, 1 in 3 chance that you'll just stay there and also slowly die.
Yep.
Because it used to be that for 5 turns you could roll a flesh or seriously injured for 5 rounds. So just kind of like go
and just like lay on the ground for a while.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
I'm not bleeding out, but
Yeah.
I'm not standing back up.
So now you're actually bleeding out.
Yeah.
This does a lot of things. It adds more importance to recovery rolls being aided by friendlies, or abilities, or being ignored. Things that let you get rid of flesh wounds get a lot more powerful.
Oh yeah.
Gritted, unstoppable, or gritted teeth.
Yep.
Or true grit, all that stuff that lets you ignore these things.
There's some psychic powers that let you get rid of flesh wounds.
There's a heal in biomancy. All of this changes the game drastically.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's going to make Necromunda much more lethal. Speaking of, it does say on the plus side, a critically injured fighter, which is if you roll 61 through 66 or 65 on the lasting injury, less likely to take a permanent injury if they are stabilized on a visit to the dock.
So we technically don't know what that means yet.
Right. But stabilized is a thing for the dock. It means that you're fine, but you take a critical injury.
Yeah.
It now seems like going to the dock is a pretty good way to also stop you from taking a lasting injury.
Yeah.
Which is better, because the rogue dock was not actually that... He was cheap, and I often didn't take one. Because it was kind of like, whatever, it's only on a 61 to 65, and if they die, they die.
True.
Now it seems like they're going to be a good way to keep you up and running and not getting bad mounting injuries.
Sure.
Next one. You want to go for the next one? Because this ties into, speaking of getting more experience...
With when you do flesh wounds or seriously injuries, a secondary skill you can choose for 12 experience, which we again have done the breaking down of experience, gain experience, and spending.
One of the things we said in that video was you will never, ever, ever randomly pick a secondary skill.
Right.
Because most skills in Necromunda are bad, although we'll get to that. Most are bad, and it used to be you would spend 12 experience points and randomly choose a secondary.
Yep. And it could be something that had nothing to do with the gear that you had,
Yeah.
or literally impossible for you to use. Like I had a Van Sar character who hates being in melee, remember? Get backstab.
Yeah.
Why? So this, being able to choose for 12, being able to it's something to do with your experience that's not just increasing your stat points or getting primary skills. And it's also a good way to more specifically customized characters.
Because secondary skills were kind of just useless.
Yeah.
Like you basically looked at what the primary was for your characters, not for secondaries.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't do anything with secondaries. Yeah. It didn't matter.
You just had to either ignore them or hope that you got something good.
But it was never worth spending the points to hope you got something good.
Nope. I did it, I believe, twice, and it screwed me both
At
times.
12 XP, it might not be still.
I think
because a primary is 8, I believe.
A primary is 8.
Or it was. They
true.
could change this.
They could change
we
everything.
don't know.
But yeah, I like that.
Speaking of skills, certain skills have been improved. It's safe to say that several of the original core skills are less favored than the rest. Most skills in Necromunda are bad.
Yes.
The likes of Headbutt, Iron Jaw, and Hurl have all been improved. They don't say how.
Right.
And then they call out Overseer
as being a little too good.
Which is one of the ones we talked about. Overseer, the one is where you basically sacrifice your activation to give someone else their activation. Now requires a leadership test to function.
Yep.
Now, that's not much of an actual nerf.
No. Because most leaders' leadership is good.
5, 6.
Yeah. So it's a chance to fail, but not a big chance to fail.
But there were secondary characters, champions, or bounty hunters who could also take Overseer.
Right.
And that is a direct nerf to them because very often their leadership is not the 5 or even the 4 of an Warlock.
Yeah, I am looking forward to seeing how they change the skills, if they're specifically calling out the good ones and the bad ones.
There's a lot of skills. Most of them are bad.
Yep.
Most of them they can't make any worse.
It's true.
So
I mean, they could. I could come up with some ways to make things worse.
Sure, you can make Headbutt even more useless, but it's going to go from I didn't take this to the I still didn't take this.
Yeah, that's true. Whereas things like Overseer were... I mean, we had the running theme of, I can't say this on camera, but don't be one of those guys.
Don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk. And Overseer can get that way if you build it in a, I don't want to say toxic way, but it can get that way.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're looking at some of those skills that are a little too strong makes me think that they're going to hopefully do right.
Yes. Now this one, there's a new lasting injury table, and it comes with a lot more flavor. Or more accurately, there's a much older lasting injury table, which harks back to the 1995 edition of the game, allowing your fighter to collect scars, rivalries, and old battle wounds, as well as all the regular dismemberments and lessons.
Right.
So that's before my time.
This is before my time, too.
And in 1995, I was 3 years old. So I wasn't playing Necromunda back then. But I did do a little research, and it used to be that you could get bonuses or negatives to fight certain other gang members.
Really?
Stuff like that. That's the rivalries or rerolls, other things like that. So it could be that guy put me on the ground. I now get a reroll against that guy.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
That's so crazy.
Which is a lot of bookkeeping.
It is.
So I'm interested to see how this pans out.
Yeah. Maybe it's rivalries against specific gangs more than specific characters.
Right. It could be either.
Yeah.
Lot could happen. I'm interested to see what happens with that.
Yeah, because one of my problems with the lasting injury table is there was basically like huge chunks that was like I almost said 20 numbers, but like 12 numbers that was nothing happened. 12 numbers that it was like, oh, you miss a game, and then the last 12 numbers were actually important.
The last 12 were the ones where you went uh-oh.
Yeah. So I like the fact that they're kind of adding a granularity to it, where there's going to be some extra stuff in there. I'm interested to see what they do.
Yeah, especially if it's extra positives.
Yeah.
Because some feel-goods for having your guy get knocked out are always fun. Like, oh, you stepped on my head and removed my guy, and I lost the game. But next time...
Next time I get
I actually have a bonus against fighting you, which that's really fun. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah.
And then last but certainly not least...
we've complained about this a lot, and I'm glad they're doing something about it. Hit penalties apply for certain tricky actions. The one they specifically call out is shooting an AoE at the ground.
So that is a staple of Necromunda.
It is.
I can't... You're behind cover, so you're at -2 to hit. But if I shoot the point of the ground next to you, I don't get a -2 to hit, and the effect on you is exactly the same.
Yeah. It is kind of a feels bad, as like standing behind cover doesn't do as much.
It's an interesting thing in Necromunda because it's so baked into the game that we all kind of internalize it.
Yeah.
As AoE weapons are really good as a way to get around cover.
Right.
So for good or ill, it became something that was just baked into all of our psyche. Removing that is going to be a very interesting thing.
Yeah. So you can still do it. We didn't bring up.
But you're -2 to hit.
You're at a -2 to hit. So it's basically going to be the same as shooting at somebody that's in full cover.
So when would you do it now? Well, if you wanted to hit more than one person with it. Or something like that.
Yeah.
They also call out that charging someone you can't see gives you -1 to hit. Now, it doesn't say for that combat. I'm assuming it means for that combat.
Yeah, I would guess on that charge, but we don't know.
That's also really big because that's one of the most important things you can do is charge someone who can't see you.
Yeah.
That way.
Because you can go.
Right. So charging someone you can't see, I guess, gives you -1 to hit because then you have a more difficult time. You're surprised coming around the corner.
Yeah, you know they're there, but you don't know exactly.
You turn the corner and they're just butts out.
Yeah.
And you're like, ah.
Still swinging though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Those are only 2 of them.
Yes.
We'll see what else happens because there's a lot of other interactions like that.
Yeah, there are.
And that's the closing. That's the last one from the article. So what's the read between the lines here on this? I think no new edition.
Yeah, I think this is the new edition without it being one. And I'm like we said at the top of the video, I'm perfectly fine with that.
No complaints from me.
No. We can also assume that they are going to take a decent look at the balancing. I mean, definitely more than they've been doing.
They're at least going to look at it.
Yeah.
Whereas previously, the number of times they've errated or FAQ'd something
Oh god, the Necromunda errata document's huge.
It is, but I mean, for balance.
Oh, is nothing.
Right.
Basically.
Not for balance reasons.
No.
Yeah, they errata things that are obviously like don't work or mistakes, but they don't fix things like that's brokenly overpowered.
Yeah, like they do for the other games.
I mean, one of the things is a bolt pistol is 40 credits, a plasma pistol is 50.
Mm-hmm.
There is no possible universe in which you take a bolt pistol unless it's a flavor thing.
Yeah.
Which, that is part of Necromunda, to be fair. And always will be.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what I'm going to say is I'm going to assume that soul, that core of Necromunda, where it is still an unbalanced garbage fire, is not going to change with this.
As long as it's a fun garbage fire.
Right. Yeah. I hope it just gets a slightly more balanced garbage fire because it's a little more fun when you're throwing the same garbage.
And in the same effect with the changing of the skills, I hope more things come up from the garbage pile than come down from being way too powerful.
Yes.
Because I want more variety than like, oh, you're taking the guy with the overseer, cool.
Yeah.
Or you have the Overwatch guy or the jump up guy, like, oh, you're taking headbutt, man. I haven't seen that in 2 campaigns because that's awesome.
I want to be able to put a different skill and different weapon on every single ganger I have, and have them all be and not be kneecapping myself.
Yeah,
because that's what it is right now.
I do love that the 3 that they call out, headbutt, hurl, and what was the last one? I passed it.
Headbutt, hurl, and iron jaw
Are all in the same skill tree.
The worst skill tree.
Yeah, the worst skill tree. I think it's combat.
Yeah.
And I've had to look at that one a few times and go like, I mean, I guess I'll take Iron Jaw.
No, combat has one good one. It's just none of those.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to this, and hopefully it'll be fairly soon.
That's my final question. Final thoughts is A, when are we getting this?
I'm gonna say before the end of August.
Okay.
I hope it's sooner than that, but I think it's before the end of August.
We have not seen any teasers or information about the next Arenthian Secession book.
That's true. Although it took a while for the second one to come out.
This is true. So hopefully for the end of August. And then next question, the worst question, how much is that book going to cost? Is it going to be a $60 rulebook? Or
I was going to say 70.
Is it going to be a $70 rulebook because it's dang
the
thick?
New 40K rulebook, granted it's probably, I'm not sure if it's as thick as this, is only 60. It actually went down from the last edition.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe 60? I would be okay with it being 60 if it's every rule. I mean, I'm assuming the house books and all that stuff are going to stay.
Yes, I hope. I'm assuming, this isn't an index reset.
This isn't a reset. But if it's just a rule book, I would be okay with 60. I think I would be.
That wouldn't be the worst. If it's more than 60, that's bad.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, it's better than buying a $300 box just to get it.
Yes, it is. And if you went and bought Ash Waste just for the rulebook, R.I.P.
Yep. Rip your wallet.
Lo siento, senor. So let us know below if A, you are somebody who bought the Ash Waste box for the rulebook.
And we need to RIP you.
And we need to RIP you. F in chat for yourself. And B, are you as excited about this as we are? Because I am pumped.
Yeah, me too. I'm very excited to see the changes.
I want this book as soon as possible. I want this to be what we talk about on Sunday in the Rent-Down.
I'd be so excited.
That would make me uber hyped.
Yeah, especially since we're starting a campaign in here soon.
Yes. And there's so many other questions that we could talk about this for a while. Are all the white dwarfs getting folded in? Are those getting updates? What's going where? What's this?
What's being completely thrown away?
I thought about that because the enforcer is right on the front.
Yeah.
And I'm playing enforcers in our next campaign, but I'm using the bad zone enforcer rules from a white dwarf because they're much more flexible and updated than the normal enforcer rules.
Yep.
Are those going to be in there? Are they going to throw them out? Can I still use them? Of course I can. We could arbitrate it, but I can.
Yeah, we can do whatever we want.
Even so many unanswered questions. Leave us a comment and ask your unanswered question so we can all stare at it and have an existential crisis. Until then, I'm Josh.
I'm Mitchell.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.